6:30 by 3 o'clocks. So we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Would you please take roll?
Ms. Atkins? Here. Mr. Hendricks?
Here.
Mr. Houston?
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Here.
Mr. Stopper?
Here.
Mr. Rowledge?
Here.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the July 19th, 2021 agenda?
Second.
Is there any discussion? We do have the closed sessions, and so we'll continue those with the discussion. I go into closed session, then we'll come back and do all the action items. Okay. Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stopper?
Yes.
Mr. Rowledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Commendation and good news.
Dave?
I did not put anything together tonight.
Okay.
It's been quiet. It's been quiet, which usually, first couple weeks in July are quiet,
Yeah.
so that can be good, but things are gonna ramp up real quick.
Yeah.
So,
August is around the corner, absolutely. When is registration?
9th,
The
the 9th
9th?
of August.
Okay,
And online registration will launch probably next week.
okay. And we get the majority of them from online registration?
Yes. We have, in fact, it's required that everybody does it online. So
Okay.
they will all be online.
Right.
There's about a little over 2,900 that are ready to start next week
Okay.
with the online process.
Okay. But they can also come into school and do it on,
They can, we're trying to encourage folks
to do it at home?
not come into school.
Right,
To handle it online and pay fees online, do everything that way.
right. Okay. All right. Does anyone else have commendations and good news?
I love the conversation when you're out and about and people are talking about the auditorium and the transportation center. It's always very positive and people are excited to see what it looks like. And I've had several people say, can we get in and get a hard hat tour of the auditorium? I mean, you know, so, but I've not heard anything that's not exciting and positive. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful that the community's behind it.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll go to comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our meeting that anyone from the audience or online, if they want to type in a question or address the board.
Want to mention too, just to let Josh know, he usually communicates to me through my cell phone, and I don't have it in here with me, so maybe use Andrea tonight if you need to.
Hand motions in the back. and
Or just
Speak up.
Speak out.
We're
yeah.
here. All right. So hearing none, we'll go on to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Is there an updated personnel?
There is, there's only one addition, and that's in F, classified resignation.
Okay. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stopper?
Yes.
Mr. Rowledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Reports.
No reports tonight.
That could have been in with the commendation and good news, right? All right. Discussion items, 7.01, final 500 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the second read.
So, it's been a month, since our last meeting approximately, but, I did not receive any questions. I think these were, as I explained last time, these are pretty much either trading one out for the other or just updating, legal references and in some cases numbers. And I had pointed out at the end, there were, a handful of IASB policies that we didn't necessarily need legally, but they seemed appropriate for us to have on in our policy book to point to in regards to things like emergency plans and drills, custody and parental rights, student special health issues and such. So nothing real perplexing about any of these, which I think is probably why I did not get any questions, but there were no changes made from the first read.
Okay, does anyone have any discussion, anything to add to these? We're okay on the second read? Okay. 7.02, 600 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the first read.
Yeah, I always feel like, how can I say something different and not be redundant? But it really applies to this one, this group, probably more than many. There's a lot of, you'll see a lot of keep LC policy throughout here, more so than usually in a large group like this. And, you know, Ann and I have talked a number of times. You know, typically if we were going to renumber a policy, if we weren't doing a full review, we wouldn't bring a renumber for board approval. But I put those in there anyway, just for the organizational purpose of it. So there's, you know, there's some of that in there. At the same time, again, updating legal references. Nothing in here is remotely a large change or anything that is significant or even worthy of discussion. It's one policy for an updated policy, legally appropriate, and just allowing us to practice in the same law-abiding way we already do on these topics. And that's a first read, as always. So any questions over the next couple weeks and any changes that need to be made, we can do that accordingly.
Does anyone have any discussion reviewing these since the board packet came out? Is there anything that caught anyone's eye that you want to discuss? We're okay on the first read then? All right. 7.03, mandatory open enrollment policy updates.
So these, there was some change in legislation, which by the way, let me mention also that my plan for our next board meeting, there will be another group like what I'm about to explain, along with hopefully a continued group in our 600 series policy review. These two here in regards to open enrollment, as you know, when the legislative session closes, there are often new laws, new statutes that require changes to school policy. And there's a few of those. And again, I'll be bringing more back at the first August meeting, possibly even the second August meeting before school gets started. These are two that I wanted to get on the books immediately because we've actually just recently, when we did the 500 series, just reviewed policies on open enrollment. But these two are specific to the procedure as a sending district and the procedure as a receiving district. They're not huge changes. Basically, the law now permits open enrollment protections for pre-kindergarten students that are enrolled in special education. So it just adds the pre-kindergarten to that, and there's just pretty much one line in there. And then also now students in grades 9 through 12 open enrolling into our district will be eligible for participation in varsity level athletics. We don't have a choice in these matters. It's not really a review, it's a change per the law, which if you've noticed, Bob, since you usually jump on motions, you've noticed the way I've written that. When there are legal requirements that causes a change, we don't need to do a second read. So I have that as being presented on the first and final read. Of course, the board can choose to bring it back. I'm not sure why we would do that because
We have no choice.
we're changing this
Yeah.
exactly as what the law requires, nothing more, nothing less. And that's the way it's presented to you here, and I don't know why there would be a need for a second read.
Right. Anyone have any questions, any discussion about these, or this policy, these two policies? And you're okay with doing it first and final read? Okay. All right. 7.04, is it edgenuity or edgenuity?
Actually, your first one was, you did a good job there.
Okay. Well, I kind of scoped it out before I said it. License and hosting agreement.
I'll let Dave carry this.
We use Edgenuity at the high school level for supplementing curriculum throughout the comprehensive program that the high school has, focusing primarily on credit recovery. We've been doing this for a long time. And this is a fee, an annual fee. It includes hosting the product as well, so we use it as software as a service. We do not host a server of our own for this particular product. So this price includes the technical services behind the scenes as well.
And it's just for 1 year.
Yes, it's an annual renewal.
Is there any questions?
Are there lots of products like this out there?
There are,
There are.
yes. We have been using the prior product to Edgenuity was called Odyssey,
Okay.
okay? And we used that actually K-12 for several years and hosted a server on site for that. They were purchased by Edgenuity, and the product has been completely rewritten now. And to be honest with you, last year, with all the remote learning that we were doing, this product helped us a great deal. It really helped to provide a platform for us to effectively engage students in significant curriculum in a way that didn't kill us off. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. 7.05, employee request for unpaid leave, and that would be in closed session per Iowa Code 21.51A. It's appropriate to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential, et cetera. And so, with that, before we take that motion, we also have 7.06. We can keep in closed session. We don't have to come back out and vote to go back in. Is that correct?
There's two separate ones this time, so we will have to vote and go back in.
So we will have to come, but then immediately we can vote and then go
Correct.
back into
Because it's
closed
under two
session.
different ones this time, I believe.
Okay. All right. So for 7.05, employee request for unpaid leave, can I get a motion to go into closed session? Did you get that?
I got Mr. Hendricks on the motion and Mr. Stoffer on the second.
You didn't count. You weren't loud enough. Okay. Any discussion then before we go, before the vote? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. All right. We will go. the air. All right, this is, we're back from closed session, and so now, the second portion of our agenda, that is comments and suggestions. Anyone from the audience or online, if they want to type in something to address the board. And hearing nothing, we'll go on to action items. 9.01, final 500 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the second read.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion for the board to approve the policies included in the 505, 506, 507 series and all accompanying regulations and exhibits as presented on the second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.02, 600 series policy reviews, updates, and IASB alignments on the first read.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion the board approve policies included in the 601, 602, 603, and 604 series and all accompanying regulations and exhibits as presented on this first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? And if you do review or anything, and you have anything to bring it to Dr. Knost's attention before the next meeting, and, vote please.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.03, mandatory open enrollment policy updates.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion the board approve policies 501.14 and 501.15 as presented on this first and final reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Ingenuity license and hosting agreement, 9.04.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion the board approve the Ingenuity 2021-2022 school year licensing and hosting agreement renewal as presented for the amount of $16,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.05, employee request for unpaid leave.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion the board approve the request from the employee for the unpaid leave as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote please.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.06, open enrollment requests that we had in closed session.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Hendricks.
I'd like to make a motion the board deny the open enrollment request as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote please.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Items of interest, our next board meeting is August 2nd, starting at 6:30. I know I did mention the last meeting, but then we had a kind of a month break, so I will email Anna and we will do a board evaluation, and you'll get all that information so we can get that on before, or all done before school starts. Anything else?
You want an agenda item?
That will be an agenda item, yes, that we would discuss it. Yes. And so I'll get it out to you guys, you'll give it, well, actually, I probably should talk about it. Last time we had Dave, you did a Google where I didn't receive the results. People could send them in, and then we tallied it. Do you want to do that again, or do you want to send it to me?
Probably easier is what's,
We can do the same way we did last.
Okay, why don't we plan on doing that? Okay, and so Anna has the form that we used, I'm sure, and if not, I know I do. And we'll get that sent out, and people can do it and get it in, and we'll have it done before then, next school year starts. Anything else?
can we not use those words?
What's that?
School starts?
Oh.
No, school starts.
You sound like my husband. He still gets upset because of the back-to-school shopping. He still does. And I said, Scott, you don't need to get upset. You know? So anyway, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? You can stay if you'd like. Otherwise, have a good